Welcome again. This video I'm going to be talking about the narcissist's obsession over lost grade A supply. Um, some of you may have experienced this where, especially if you are the ones that left them, okay? It also pertains to people who were left by the narcissist. But in particular, we're talking about grade A supply that got away from the narcissist and how that plays out. So, initially, the narcissist isn't really worried because they feel as though you'll be back. They feel as though time will bring about the revelation of you seeing that you lost out in a good thing on with them. If that doesn't happen to play itself out in that way, the narcissist will um, resort to moving on, of course, getting other sources of supply, dealing with other sources of supply. And a lot of times those other sources don't end up being the same way or of the same potency as what the grade A supply was. And so when these situations that they engage in with other sources of supply go wrong, and believe me, they will, the narcissist begins to start going in a desperate act of regaining or acquiring old sources. Number one, especially grade A. And this is why, and this is if it plays itself out in this way where you have moved on, you haven't looked back, you're not trying to be with them again, you're not communicating with them, the narcissist is somewhat baffled and jealous, envious, upset because you found and managed to move on without them, because they're of no significance to you anymore, right? You don't even acknowledge them. The narcissist at this point begins to develop a very unhealthy obsession with the grade A supply, where they're constantly checking in on them, stalking them, looking to see what they're doing, all types of things to keep tabs on that individual. They will make an attempt to re-engage you, hoover you, or try to see if they can find any leverage of emotional connectivity to them as it was before when you were with them. Now, the reason why we call this heat checking, the reason why they're doing that is because they can't really get over the fact or believe that you made it and moved on without them, that you haven't made any attempts to return back to them. That completely blows their minds. And that within itself triggers a narcissistic injury where the narcissist, even though they had moved on and went to other sources too as well, they still feel like as though you should have returned to them. When this doesn't happen, the narcissist really can't move on from that grade A supply. They can't. They stay stuck in limbo, forever trying to match that, either matching that supply. If they can't match that supply, and if they can't find anything greater than that grade A supply, they will be stuck. They will be stuck right there trying to figure out some sort of way to acquire or regain that supply back again. It's like they can't move on. They can't get their life to go forward because they're stuck. The narcissist, the disorder itself causes them to dwell on things and overly obsess become obsessive with certain people or situations that they just refuse to let go of. Even though that person has moved on, created their own life, etc., the narcissist cannot let go because the constant comparison of the comparing at least of what they have in the source that they may have a newly acquired source at least that doesn't live up to what you were being grade A source supply. They can't, it won't suffice, it won't do for them, thus they can't be at peace. They'll be at a certain unrest within them that just won't allow them to be at peace, keeping you on their mind constantly, what you're doing, where you're at, etc., what's going on in your life, etc. They won't be able to move past that. And this is where that obsession comes from them, where even though you may think, oh, you haven't heard from them, it's quiet, you have peace, they're still watching somewhere. They're watching. They're still keeping tabs somewhere. They are. Trust me. They're looking at you. They're checking out what you're doing. If you have any social medias, if you don't, they have people. If you're within an area where you're known and they know you and you know people that they may know, or they have flying monkeys that can come and check in on your whereabouts. They're sending people to look, or they themselves are coming and spying and looking and checking in on you in whatever area that you may be in. They are not gone. They're still lurking somewhere. Okay? This is just how they operate when they lose grade A supply and they themselves receive a revelation that they can't replace that. They go on looking to try to replace it and trying to find someone with the similarities of that grade A supply, but it never quite, replenishes them. And they stay miserable, depressed, just restless. And this goes on and on and on with them until they, try to formulate some plan to get back in, to be placed back into your life. Right? So they'll make some sort of, they'll concoct at least some sort of plan that has to do with maybe them learning and starting to understand their wrongs and their ways to see if you'll bite. It's a heat check, okay? It's a heat check. And they're doing that because it's basically, let me see if you still care about me. Because trust me, the narcissist knows when you were with them how much you gave to them, how much you put out when you were with them. When you shut it off and you keep it pushing and you keep it moving, never looking back. Right? They know it's over. So they have to see in any way, is this real? Am I really bearing witness to this? Is my source really gone? Let me try to see if this will pull them back in. So they're heat checking. They're seeing if you still care enough to respond to whatever call of distress that they're putting out to you. And you have to be mindful of that. That's how they operate. So just keep in mind, yes, even though you do not hear from them, even though you don't see them, just know the psychology of how their minds operate when they lose grade A supply. It's always looking to match or get greater than that. If they cannot match or get greater than the grade A supply, they will be forever stuck on that lost grade A supply. Not moving on, but lurking somewhere or having someone stalk you for them in some sort of way. So just be mindful of that. The narcissist has not fully, completely gone. They're in some. They're around somewhere. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you show your support. Um, and also, when you subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Very important to hit that bell, as you'll be able to get the you'll get the notifications when I go live and do lives. Also, if you're in the I believe it's the Atlanta area and the Marietta area, the State of Mental Health and Ministry in the African American Church. I believe Dr. Griffin is going to be attending that as well. You can I'll leave post this at the end of the video. You can check that out. If you haven't got your copy, which you should have by now, of my documentary on narcissism, Departure of Empathy, I'll leave that as well. You definitely want to get a copy of that. Also, the Anti-Narcissist Awareness Training Academy course, ebook, audio. You want to get that too. Goes over everything with narcissists from A to Z. Those two things are available now. Show your support. It helps. It helps, put other stuff that we have in the lines of bringing out for you guys as well. But just wanted to put that out there. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good one. Bye now.